Tell me what the hell are you scared of when in the end the only thing
Where's
that's
the love?
left
Right here on this
is
podcast.
love.
Welcome to Love
Love
Drops, where your hosts and One Love ambassadors, Charles and Diane, will share love, hope, and inspirational topics taken from their journey and world events. We will also include on location recordings and special pop up guests from cool places all around the world. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Whether big or small, love never fails. Oh, love it conquers all. Love never fails.
Welcome to another edition of Love Drop Podcast. I am so excited about this guest today. He was brought to our attention by a dear friend, Sally Arkell Boyles. And when Sally sends someone, they are definitely light and they are definitely aligned with us, all about love. And so we're going to jump into a conversation on mindset mastery. But before I get ahead of myself, I'm going to turn over to Charles. And Charles, will you introduce our guest, please?
I certainly will. And thank you, Diane. Paul Gencarella Jr. is our guest today. He's a speaker, a coach, a resilient advocate who transforms life's toughest trials into powerful lessons for growth. With over 25 years in insurance industry, he combines real-world experience with deeply personal stories, including his and his son JP's battle with cancer, to inspire lasting change. Paul's message is simple, yet impactful. You are both the obstacle and the solution. Through faith, mindset, and action, he helps individuals strengthen their health, wealth, and relationships. Whether on stage or behind the mic, Paul delivers authentic, high-energy insights that move people to take control of their lives and thrive through adversity. And with that said, Paul, you now have the mic.
Thank you very much for the very warm introduction, Charles and Diane. It is good to be here because I'm going to be speaking about something that not only that I enjoy speaking about, but I'm hoping that it resonates with your audience and it kind of clicks with them to say, oh, geez, you know what? I'm going through this or that. And that makes pretty good sense. I'm going to try that. And really what I'm referring to is our mindset. I am from Westerly, Rhode Island, a coastal community in the Northeast between Boston and New York City, and born and raised in this area. And it's a great place to live. A lot of people in their 20s take off and they find themselves coming back to settle down with a family and things. And it's really, really nice. And, I have a number of close friends. And usually when you get married, you go live with a woman wants to go, into her home. Everyone comes to Westerly, all my friends, all the wives live here. I mean? It's awesome. It's great. So it's a good plug in that respect. And as Charles had mentioned, I was in the insurance business for 25 plus years. Right out of college, I got into the insurance industry, and it was a very fruitful career. Never aspired to get into insurance. I mean? I don't know if anyone does, but I really kind of fell into it, so to speak. And I was in the sales realm in a local insurance agency. So business insurance, personal insurance, and all those types of things. And things were going well. And what I mean by that, 3 kids, a loving wife, just built a home in 2003, moved in 2004. Things were going great. Our youngest just turned 3. Naturally, she's a girl, 2 boys. The older one headed off to first grade. The second one was getting excited for kindergarten. He's on the back porch, just rocking back and forth on a chair backwards. And I'm at work. My wife's attending to our other daughter, who, like I said, is 3 at the time. And he kept crickety, crickety, crickety going off the side of the deck, and 3 steps, fell, did a big tumble, smashed his head onto the concrete patio. And my wife was up in arms because, he's bleeding, his eyes, gushing blood. She's like, oh my goodness, he's going to school in, 15 minutes. The bus is coming. Well, needless to say, she took him to the pediatrician. She's like, no, bring him right in. So the pediatrician was fantastic. Dr. Stokes, great guy. He said, listen, the vision, my wife thought he was going to be blind in one eye. That's because it was so crazy. So he cleaned up his eye, took care of it. It was relatively superficial wounds, if you will, and headed off to school, actually, in a couple hours late. And, class pictures with that day, the first day or whatever. But, it was a memory, you know what I mean? So that was a Wednesday. And on Friday morning, we're getting ready for school. I'm there at the time. My wife is. And he mentions to us almost in passing as he's getting ready for school, he's like, I just peed blood in the toilet. We're like, oh, really? So, needless to say, I'm thinking that it's from the fall. He had some type of contusion or whatever it was. My wife and I are kind of conferring about that. Now he's getting nervous. He's like, no, I didn't pee blood. I didn't pee blood. Well, don't worry. No, JP, don't worry. It's fine. Everything's okay. We're just, it's just a minor check things. It's going to be all set. You feel fine, right? He's like, yeah, no, I feel good. So we took him to the pediatrician. The pediatrician's like, listen, best thing to do is just go to the ER, get an ultrasound. You'll be in good shape. Okay. So we went into the hospital, and the challenge that occurred was they had to draw blood from his arm. Yeah. A 5-year-old's not taking it. He's not doing it. They did it. They did it, but he was not happy at all, crying, screaming. So now when they went to do the ultrasound, which is non-invasive, just gel that they're going to check his insides, he's still crying and going bananas. So they managed to do the ultrasound, which I didn't think they did, because they said, well, yeah, I think we got it. And they did their thing, and they said, we want you to go to the city hospital, Providence, Hasbro, city hospital, because they have a better way with kids and they can take care of them and get the test that's needed. Fine. Okay. So my wife and I take JP, and off we go. We have, care for both other kids. And that 45-minute drive, I said to Betty, I said, listen, I am not concerned in the least. He fell, it had some type of rupture. He's not in pain, so it's not a big deal. So we get to the hospital. He does the CAT scan. They did a CAT scan with him and everything, which wasn't the best of thing for him. But again, it was nothing invasive, but he just had the trauma from the needles. They pull out the results, and they called me into the nurse's station, behind the counter in there. Like, hey, come check out our computer screen. I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm looking, and they're like, see, this is his healthy kidney right here. I'm like, yeah. And they said, this is the one that's affected, and it's a lot bigger. I said, oh, yeah. I said, huh. I said, okay, so can he play soccer tomorrow? Saturday game, And he's like, well, why don't we take a step in the other room? So I'm like, okay. And my wife kind of wasn't privy to what was going on. She follows along, and we're in the room, just the two of us. I said, Betty, we're not getting good news here. She said, what are you talking about? I said, well, we're in a room, comfortable furniture, Kleenex boxes all over the place. We're not going to get some good news. So the doctor comes in, and I'm such an impulsive guy. I'm like, oh, so my son's got cancer. He's like, whoa, slow down. So I said, listen, we're not going to flip out, but just lay it on us. He's like, well, yes, your son does have a stage 1 Wilms tumor on his kidney. And just like the blood goes out of your face, you're like, what? You know what I mean? I thought I was almost overstating the fact that he had cancer. They were like, no, he just has this little thing. No, he had stage 1 cancer. And what had transpired in the typical thing with a Wilms tumor, it attaches to the kidney, and generally at some point it passes blood into the urine. Okay. Now, because my son fell, it ruptured that tumor, which sent the blood to the urine, which thank God it did, because we caught this cancer early. They're saying, okay, because this kid fell, it ruptured the tumor. He may not have had this blood in his urine for 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 years down the road. Thank you, lucky stars, that he took that fall on the deck, which we thought was the worst thing ever. Our son doesn't have good looks for school pictures and stuff, So now my wife and I are just like, in shock that our son has cancer. And now the questions come to us like, all right, how'd this happen? What do we do? What's going on? My wife, in the back of her head, which I didn't know at the time, is thinking, okay, I breastfed 2 of my 3 children for 6 months, but I only breastfed this one for a week because he wouldn't attach. So now she's thinking it was the nutrients that coming from her that didn't give him what he needed and everything.
Yes.
And you can't beat yourself up like this.
Right.
So as the time progressed, he needed to get the tumor removed and the kidney removed. It was a Labor Day weekend. They were going to do it on a Monday. Well, they couldn't do it on that Monday, and it was done on a Tuesday. So I spent Friday to Tuesday in the hospital with my son, who was healthy and feels healthy. We walked all over and just went all over the place underground. Like we went from hospital to hospital, women's hospital, the adult hospital, the kids hospital. It was kind of neat and fun. And we bonded in that respect. And then, it came the time of, okay, now we have to go into surgery and get this tumor removed. And it was horrible. It was absolutely horrible because he didn't want it. He was in pain now. He's like, what are you doing to me? You know what I mean? Why'd you do this to me? And it's kind of like us screaming out to God, why did you let whatever happen? Death, disability, injury. Why did you let this happen? But it's kind of like us as God knowing what's best for our son. He needed that surgery to remove the kidney, to remove the cancer. But as a 5-year-old, he's not comprehending that. You know what I mean? So my wife and I, not only do we have to keep composure, because we don't want him to set him off, but we didn't hide it from people. They'd come to visit. Yeah, he had stage 1 cancer. It's on his kidney. And, they removed the kidney and everything. So it just made it normal for him,
right.
In a certain respect. So it wasn't like the C word or secretive talk.
Right.
We shared everything in front of him.
Yeah.
So it was a very successful week in the hospital. When we bring him home, we're, swarmed with like mail and food baskets and everything, gift cards from the community. It was just like unbelievable. And like guilt is going through me because not only do we have a son that's going to hopefully be well, but we're getting the support from the community. You know what I mean? It's like we're taking double dips in a certain respect. So as I'm going through that, my daughter starts climbing up on a stool to get peanut butter. And I'm like, do I stop her right now? Do I let her fall? You know what I mean? Because does she have something to do? You see how you go crazy in your head?
Yes.
I went over and took her down. I said, no, honey, I'll get the peanut butter. Because you can't live in that way. It was, but we were just so dumbfounded. So about a month later, 2 kids are in bed. Everything's copacetic. Actually, all 3 kids are in bed. I'm watching Sunday Night Football. My wife's actually working a second job as a waitress. And I'm just like, how does this all happen? Like, it's just crazy. Like, so I just started, checking myself. You know what I mean? Like, and everything. So I grabbed my testicle and I'm like, geez, this is odd. So I tell my wife and she's like, all right, well, yeah, get it checked out. So when we're going up to Providence for his cancer treatment, for his chemotherapy, I said, Betty, I'm going to tell the doctor about this, the cancer doctor. She said, what, are you going to drop your pants in front of the doctor? What is she going to do? She's going to tell you to go to a urologist. You know what I mean? Just go to a urologist. I said, okay, I'll go to the So I did. So I went to the urologist and I had a good relationship with him. I knew him. He said to me, I remember him looking and checking out. He's like, I think it's a good find you had here. I said, what do you mean by a good find? He's like, I think it's cancer. I think it's an early onset stage 1 testicular cancer. I said, get the heck out of here. He said, no, I'm serious. We're going to do an ultrasound tomorrow to confirm it, but that's what I think it is. And I remember going home to my wife and then having dinner at my parents' house that night and telling them. And like everybody was kind of in disbelief to the point was they didn't even care about my cancer. You know what I mean? We would just joke around talking about it. It was just like normal, you know what I mean? And sure enough, that ultrasound was conclusive. I had my right testicle removed. So now people will call me One Ball Paul,
Oh, Lord.
So we're just making light of it in a certain respect. But what I didn't realize until a little bit later after that surgery was my son was so excited because he's like, hey, Daddy's got cancer. He's got to get chemo. I'm having
Wow.
chemo. You know what I mean? It was kind of a bonding effect, right?
Wow.
So, it was a feel-good moment. So, I shaved my head. I had just a couple doses of chemo. I wasn't going to lose my hair, but I shaved my head because he lost his hair,
Right.
Okay.
from the
Right.
chemo.
Okay.
My
Right.
mother was ticked off at me. She said, "Why do you got to go shave your head and bring attention to yourself? It's nothing about you. It's all about you. You." I said, "No, no, Ma. I was doing it for JP." She's like,
Right.
"Oh, okay. All right." She's like, "All right, I buy that." All right, okay.
Oh,
So,
right.
so
That's a
now we're
mom
kind of
for
going
you.
through this. And that summer was a cancer drive called the Relay for Life. And someone nominated my son as award recipient for his
Wow.
valiant bravery. And it was really a testament from the community to a family, which was us, that it just felt so good. And it was such a heartwarming
Yes.
thing. The only thing I could compare it to was when 9/11 happened,
Right.
everybody was so patriotic.
Yes.
The
Yes.
days that followed that, American flags
Yes.
everywhere, everyone was happy, and that sometimes, almost all the time, good can come from a tragedy if you allow it.
I have
Yes.
to jump in
Come on.
here because what we're talking about is the mindset. So before you even go into your take on mindset or any of that, this story that you just told about you and JP,
Mm,
it speaks it all. It
yeah.
speaks it all. It's like people will listen to your actions and
Yeah.
what you did.
Amen.
And just listening to this story, it's like, wow, such a beautiful show of love because the way that you supported your son and let him know, hey, it's going to be all right. And you trusted. And you even said how it's like when we ask God why. So JP is like looking at you and your wife, and it's like, why?
Why?
Right? But it's like we got your best interest at
Right.
heart. And that allows you to start checking up on you because who's to say that you would have did the checks on yourself?
Of course, right. He saved my life.
He saved your life. Paul saved his life. And just what you just ended with, sometimes things come into play that seems devastating, right?
Mhm.
But they're life saving, they're redirecting. And it all goes back to that mindset. Mindset. And
Yes.
so, whatever you say from here on the show, you just illustrated it. You lived that mindset. And by you not making it something hush hush and something toxic and
Yeah.
the C worded stuff, by you not doing it, the people around you caught on to that vibe too.
Fed
And
from it.
yes,
Yes.
and that it
Mm.
nourished you and your family, your
Right.
community in such a time where some people just lose it all.
No, right, right. Absolutely. And I think subconsciously, guys, my wife and I did the right thing
Mhm.
by
Absolutely.
our way we acted. But, sometimes when you know what you're supposed to do, sometimes you still don't do it. You know what I mean? And I think we're very blessed in that respect. And it taught us a lesson looking back on. So don't get me wrong, you get depressed and nervous and scared going through those
Absolutely.
memories. But the overall memories, we got a healthy 22-year-old son right now. You know what I mean?
Oh,
And I'm
wow.
saying he's graduating college in May, so we're very, very blessed in that respect, And it's funny. I say funny as in weird, ironic. He's giving his mother lip and this, that, and the other thing. And I say to him, you want the cancer to come back? You keep talking like that. You know what I mean? So,
Oh boy.
he kind of shook his head, because what we have to understand is that bad things happen to everyone,
Yes.
but we
Yes.
don't have to let it stay that way. And I think we could come back and talk about this further at a future episode of certain things and how things piece along, because this was, kind of a great entry of what transpired and,
Yes.
now
Yes.
how do we live the message? That's the key.
Yes.
Yeah, and a lot of those things that were happening, you looked for the positives, you found them. You build on those positives. It wasn't like a placebo effect. You lived that in your mind, and you found it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look
Right.
for the
Yeah.
positives.
Yeah. And again, I didn't have this material then.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I didn't know, what to look for or not to. But Charles, you hit it right on the head, is you get what you look for. You want the positive, you're going to get the positive.
You're
You
going to
want
get
the
it.
negative, you're going to get the negative.
You're going to
And
get
that's why
them.
people don't understand how they're mad at someone in anger and bitter, and they keep putting that thought out. Why does it keep coming back? Because we take on what we put out.
It is so true.
Absolutely. And you know what? The fact that you implanted humor in it, the humor, it's like I'm a retired critical care nurse. And when people are getting ready to go into heart surgery or just something life altering, I tell them, look at your favorite funny movie, listen to some comedy, make yourself laugh. It's like that humor just kind of lifts up that spirit.
It's
It
a healer.
doesn't take it away. But if you can laugh at it, then you're not crying about it and getting all sad and depressed. And like you said, there are going to be sad days. And I think that if you do not address them, embrace them, come face to face with them, and then let them go, release them, then what you do is you suppress, it's going to come out. It's not going to go away until you deal with it. I'm saying feelings and emotions.
Yeah,
So
inside. Yep.
right. It's a mindset. It's just like the way that you and your family handled this, it's beautiful. It really is. It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
And
We were very blessed.
find that what scientists took years to find, that laughter is good medicine.
Oh, absolutely. The best medicine.
Yes.
Absolutely.
The body responds to it all over.
Yes. And so what I'd like to do is make this a part one, part two episode. So as we wrap up with this portion, like you said, we'll come back again and record, the other segment to this. But how about you leave our listeners with some takeaways and how that experience with you and JP pivot your life?
Yeah, for sure. And I think you guys both, Charles and Diane, had alluded to the fact that what we put in our thoughts, we can either accept or dismiss. Don't accept the negativity, even though it hurts, even though it's painful, even though it's emotionally terrible. Focus on what you want and where the good is, because you'll get it. And I really, truly believe that. But it's a practice. You can't just, brush your teeth once a year. You can't do it every day. You know what I mean? An apple a day keeps the doctor away. Not 7 apples on Sunday. It's all one a day. And that's the part of the process is study yourself, learn this material, and you'll start to not only enjoy it, but it'll start to work for you in your advantage.
I love it. So consistency. I love it. You have to be consistent. You have to make it inclusive in your daily routine so that it can take root, right? So here's the thing. I know just from traumas that we've experienced in life that you walk away from it changed. It pivots your life in such a way. You began to see the priorities and the main things become different. Your focus shifts and become different. So what are some focus shifts that happen with you personally after your experience with the cancer?
The focus shifts are this. I mentioned death, disability, divorce. Those are climatic things that happen. It's not so much the big things. It's the little things. This guy just cut me off, and you get all ticked off. Or, where is my thing? I can't find it. You're screaming in the house, you know what I mean? And losing your cool for something menial. It's those menial tasks that we flip out or get upset about that start making bigger challenges. And I can tie that in to part two, because part two is another surprise as well.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. I cannot wait. So,
real cliffhanger there.
Yeah, the real cliffhanger. And I'll tell you, this was like such a phenomenal story indeed. I would say this. We always ask our guests, what love drop would they like to leave with our listeners. So we're going to ask you, Paul, what love drop or, just heart inspiration would you like to leave our listeners with today?
Yeah, I'll probably take it from one of my mentors, Jim Rohn. Jim died 7 years before I was introduced to him. You know what I mean? I was told to listen to this guy on YouTube, and he's just unbelievable, some of the messages that he has. But he says, when you change, everything will change for you. It's so simple that we don't do it. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
When we change our thinking, our feelings change, our thoughts change, and then our actions will change. And again, that can tie into another episode down the road. But the love drop that I would love to leave is when we change, everything will change for us. It's not that person or that company or that billing person. It's us.
Wow.
Wow, that is so true. Diane and I had that conversation not too many days ago about change being the one thing that is constant throughout your entire life is change. Whatever it is, it's going to change.
Yes. And so you embrace it. And then with your mindset mastery, I go back to just creating space. Whatever it is that I want to see, I want to live, I create space for that thing. And then I believe it and I live into it. I don't worry about how the pieces are going to come. I don't worry about anything. I just create the space, the things that I want to live into. And then you surrender as well, because it's like you can't flow and control at the same time. So
Right.
when you get stuck in certain feelings, and it can even be great feelings, when you get stuck, you get on a hamster wheel, right? And what happens is something wonderful that happened. If you just get stuck in playing that over and over and over, then you're not allowing for other things. You're taking up space, with that thought. So it's like you have to let it all flow through, the good, the bad, the ugly. You let it come, you let it be, and then you let it go. You let it go. So it's just like, I simply love this conversation. I did not know where you were taking us. I feel like on a roller coaster ride, and then said, okay, there's the next part of the ride, but you're going to have to wait for that. So, yes,
Exactly.
yes.
One thing I want your listeners to also understand is what you basically just conveyed. You have to let it go. And yes, it's a simple phrase, but it's difficult. Yes, it's going to be difficult to do it first, just like riding a bike or anything you pick up to try to do. But once you start doing it and you really tell yourself to let it go, it will work to your advantage, And I guess you guys are living proof,
Yeah, for sure, for
Yeah.
sure. Live those messages, and so are you.
This part one is like the previews of coming attractions. We've
Right,
planted some
exactly.
seeds that will grow all over the place.
Yeah.
It is festive.
And I'm sure you got our audience attention. They're going to be
Well,
asking.
that's what we're about, right? We're about the audience right now. We really
Yeah.
want them to benefit.
And I'm sure they will. So I will say to you what I say to all of our guests, and that is thank you, Paul, for your time.
Thank you.
It is non-refundable. We appreciate that. To our listeners, thank you for hanging in. If you want to learn more about Paul and all the amazing things he's doing in the world, we're going to have his information in the show notes. Do reach out to him. Do spread and share this word, because it is definitely about mindset and mastering. And people need to hear this message so much in such a time as this, right? And I believe at any time, actually. And if the show resonates, subscribe and share the love with everyone you know. And until next time, Charles and I will sign off with
One love.
Never a second will I waste. Never an opportunity to taste the sweetness of this life.
Thank you for tuning in to the Love Drops podcast.
challenges.
Be sure to
of
follow this
life.
podcast and share the love with everyone you know.
Love it
Until
conquers
next time,
all.
this is
Whether
Charles
big or small,
and Diane
love never,
signing off.
love never,
One love.
love it conquers all. Whether big or small, love never fails. Oh, love never, love it conquers all. Love never.